Hi, Seppy. How are you doing this morning?
Hi, Chris. I'm fine.
This is this is Seppy Yoon. He is a game designer and publisher. He is from the frigid north of Minnesota. He was also in a documentary a few years ago called Around the Table. He's an all-around fun person with some great game designs. Looking forward to starting season 7 talking to Seppy. Thanks for being here, Seppy.
Thanks for having me, Chris.
Oh yeah,
It's early, and it's cold, and yeah, I appreciate your flexibility with my old guy frigid schedule.
well, you asked me if I was a morning person. The answer is resoundingly no. I am not a morning person, but you were kind enough to reschedule after I had some things going. So the main reason I wanted to talk to you and why I am excited about bringing you on for season 7 to start it off is Conquest Princess. You had some crowdfunding go last year, but you didn't get to do everything you wanted to do. You're about to pretty soon launch Night of the Necropede.
Night of the Necropede. Night of the Necropede is the second story arc in the Conquest Princess mission series. So the first box is basically Conquest Princess versus the Fashion Tyrant. And so we say Conquest Princess verse because Conquest Princess, as you know, is the most powerful weapon for justice in the galaxy. It is your giant robot. And like any giant robot, it has a dark past. It has evil secrets. It has things that plug into things. All the things that you love about giant robots.
And so for those who don't know the game, tell us more about the game. What's is it purely competitive? What's going on when they open the box and look at the game? Like what's gonna be surprising for somebody when they open a Conquest Princess box?
I think first of all, they're going to be surprised how heavy and large the box is for a game about using fashion to overcome galactic tyranny. I am known for a massive disparity between light speed themes and dark matter difficulty. So I think that's the first thing. It is a fully co-op game that features all female or non-binary characters. We're very proud of that. We have one trans character as well. Yeah, it is. It's great. In it, you have it's a co-op bag builder where you are sharing a bag of destiny. Everybody gets like a wrist blaster where they keep track of their action points for the round. You go around the table. It takes about 45 minutes. Is that the kind of thing that you want to hear, Chris?
Yeah. Because for the people who haven't heard of the game, like I came back very excited about the game after PAX getting to play with you, and I told some people about it, and they're like, "What is going on with this game? What? Like I see these pictures, and I don't know what's going on with this game." So that's great. And I know some of them are going to be listening to the podcast. So, what does the expansion add? Does it make things more difficult? Does it make it
I think the expansion is more difficult than the original set of missions. The original story arc has 4 missions in it. It has the tutorial mission called the Captain Ashi Marooned. And then the first mission is the pet rescue. And then the second mission is the dark portal. And then the third mission is the boss battle mission, which is Conquest Princess versus the Fashion Tyrant. So you will get another 2, you'll get a standard mission, an advanced mission, and a boss battle mission again in Night of the Necropede. And it explores what happened to the giant monster, the kaiju, that was at the center of the Fashion Tyrant's plot after she is defeated. And so that gives the long and short for folks who like if you are shocked by this game or this theme, you are in good company. There are so many people who are like, what is going on with this game? But just like, Chris, did you like Everything Everywhere All at Once?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Would someone having told you anything about the game prepared you for what you were going to experience?
I mean, I play a lot of games, so probably me, but I could see no, the experience of playing with you. No,
Well, Everything Everywhere All at Once is really a mother-daughter movie, right? About the
Mm-hmm.
problems between mothers and daughters and how expectations and sexual identity end up confusing a person, especially if they're an immigrant's dream. But if I had told you that was what the that movie was about, and you went to see that movie, you would have lost your mind. You're like, what is going on? You have a set of expectations.
You forgot to
Um,
tell me things.
yeah, like
Hot dogs.
hot dogs. Like, oh my God, what is going on with hot dogs? If somebody had told you, like, I know people told me that the Barbie movie was Wakanda for women, but like I still was not prepared for how awesome the Barbie movie was. But so in the same way, like a female empowered, like way smarter than it should be, um, uh, and not easy on the first pass. You should enjoy it multiple times. Conquest Princess is just like that.
That's awesome. So
Hi,
let's just go
Gary.
ahead and talk about your game design. Yeah, Gary's here with us today too. Um, uh, yeah, for those who are just listening, my black cat familiar is wandering around in the background. But what's your approach to game design in general then? Like how did you take all those disparate elements of like I could I think pick up on some things that were going on, but for the person who's like I regularly meet people and they're like, how do game designers put all these different things into this mad concoction of a game? Like I would never think of putting, the teleporters over here and there's these the bad guys are waiting over here, but they'll show up like this, and then we have the planet over here. What is your approach to taking all those mechanics, those things that are going on, and making it work in a game?
Um, it depends on the size of the game and the goal of the game. So, Conquest Princess, I've been working on for 9 years,
Hmm.
and this is the ninth version. I started over 9 times. We have a pretty rigorous way that we get like fan approval for what we do, what we're going to publish in any given year. So, our like prototype cycle internally ends with Protospiel Minnesota, which is coming up this weekend, coming up. Um, and there we bring all the mad scientist items that we are going to test for the year. And what it gets the most response ends up being the thing that we usually crowdfund.
Hmm.
And so that's sort of a big part of the process. Conquest Princess actually failed that process because after it goes to Protospiel, then it goes on the con circuit, the early con circuit, sort of ending in April, and we get in front of fans and see how everybody responds to it.
Mm-hmm.
And the first version, which was Mean Girls Set Collection Area Control, it was massively polarizing even amongst our fans, and so we had to the biggest issue being how long it took.
Hmm.
People weren't ready for a fashion epic, and I've always wanted to do a fashion epic. So Barbarella had like massive effect on my DNA as a human being, and like like it really did. Like Jane Fonda has no fewer than 13 costume changes in story in that movie.
Oh wow,
It's
yeah.
also where Duran Duran, the band, gets its name from.
Oh,
Yeah, and it's about what
huh.
happens in a universe after they've given up on war.
Right.
And then somebody like tries to revive it and why. And so yeah, so there's a tyrant in there. There's a lot of stuff as far as like individual elements go. And so um if we're on Seppy's long track, that means I will never let anything go. Like my parents, I'm half Korean and half Irish, which means I can split my country in half and just never let it go. Just never let it go. And so for that reason, like Princess failing and then me having to start again and failing again and start again. The
Mm,
ninth build, I brought in my writing partners from Mouse Cheese Cat Cucumber, Peter and Patrick Yang. And if you haven't played Mouse Cheese Cat Cucumber, it is the most overproduced $13.50 in the history of gaming. And yeah, and I was like, okay, we are going to make a game with modular design that allows people when they go on one mission, if they learn this one module, they can take that information on to another one to improve their skills. And so the major breakthrough for this game and game design, however, I think is the tutorial mission. The first standard mission, we took it on the con circuit year before last, so 2022.
mm,
And people were struggling. Like the
mm.
amount of things going on for first timers for the game was overwhelming. And so we dialed it back and we made a tutorial mission that you got to play, Chris, that
Mhm.
is sort of wildly fun. And it introduces you to the core concepts of the game. And then the standard mission blows it open for what the version is a full game. But somebody recently asked, um, can I have another step between the tutorial mission and the standard mission? And I might do that. That might not be the worst idea.
Mm,
Yeah, absolutely. I would have to formulate like look at the Legos. But for other games like Squirrel or Die, that was like a 3-week
mm.
cycle
Yeah.
from and processing was another one of these long hauls where the original version was a super duper failure. Not because it wasn't fun, but because it was unsustainable for a human to play.
Well, tell me about that. What does that mean?
So in the original version of processing, I'm a refugee from corporate America, and humans aren't resources; they're
Mm,
people. Like
mhm,
I envisioned an alien utopia where alien immigrants, humans, and cows all
mhm.
got efficiently sorted in the same building because aliens are great that way. And so you had secret agendas where you were trying to mess up the works and make that happen. And so there were 6 chutes going down a conveyor belt, and you were dropping like traps and other things on those conveyor belts
Mhm.
to make the stream of cows, humans, and aliens to go to different places.
Yep.
And of course, the three
Uh,
places are um, processed for food, freed to live in the alien utopia, or probed for science.
yeah. Well, and I had a question about the game. Is the CAO, is that a reference to anything else?
The
I'll,
Confederated alien
yeah,
overlords,
yeah,
the cow.
yeah.
Uh,
Like,
e-
is that a reference to your corporate life in the past, or?
it might be. There's usually like double or triple Easter eggs in and
Okay,
around
okay.
that kind of stuff. Yeah. So, um, it got slimmed down many, 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 many times until and what was wrong with the first version was playing the traps was fun. Watching the cows and the humans and the aliens go down the chutes was super fun,
Mm,
but when you played 25 traps onto the board, the maintenance of that became insane.
mm, mhm.
And so that is what ended up making the game that version of the game. But if I ever get to make an iPad game, like
It's
anything that is automated, or we'll eventually have like that will come back because it's super fun. We had catapults where the cows were getting, flung Monty Python style to other places, and then yeah, it was great.
that's awesome.
Mutation rays.
Uh, well, related to all that, would you design that game again? I mean, 9 years is a long time to work on a game. If you could go back and change anything about how you do just your business and game design, what would you change?
My timing has been like poor. I mean, I've been doing this for 11 years, right?
Yeah.
I think the biggest deal was End of the Line was a pretty big success for an indie in
Mm,
2014. I would have, and I had
Well, let's stop right there. Like, what does that mean to say it was a pretty big success? Like, you personally were happy with it. Yeah, cool game. How are you defining success, though, Seppi? What does that
um
mean?
I sold it. It completely sold out.
Yeah.
So it funded. It made over goal. It got 3 stretch goals in. It delivered early on its Kickstarter promise.
Hmm.
So those are all successes. And there was 1,500 copies of the initial game, and we sold out all of them. Okay. But I was under the strange idea that after you sold your game, that you should, or no, when you make your game, you should just sell it, and that's what you should do. I should have like followed up with the expansion to that right away as soon as that had delivered and
Hmm.
taken like crowdfunding as like more core to my business
Hmm.
earlier. Because I had always hoped that eventually people grow up out of crowdfunding. But if you're a little indie, I'm like the Ramones. I'm traveling place to place, doing little shows and other kinds of stuff. Like
Yeah.
I don't know, like the touring, hardworking touring band analogy really works for Fight in a Box, and so I'm still sort of at that stage. Yeah, but understanding that and getting back onto a cycle of doing these crowd funds quicker would probably have been the massive change that I would have done. Like crowdfunding is way different now than 2014.
Hmm.
I think there are people who got hurt by the whole system. I had always prioritized and still do delivering on early and making sure that people are happy.
Hmm.
But that didn't seem to be the methodology that inspired people's most joy, right? There was a huge like mentality for stretch goals and the big circus.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
was like, I want to make sure that I always over promise under promise and over deliver, and I did that. And so we delivered early on 3 of our Kickstarter promises, and like I said, Mouse Cheese Cat Cucumber is the most overproduced $13.50 in the history of gaming. um it's ridiculous, right? The
Yeah.
amount of game in that box, this tiny box, if you include the role-playing game, they got like 230 pages worth of like quality content for $13.50.
Yeah. Yeah. I've shown that to people several times, and they're like, "This is ridiculous," but where do I get a copy? Um, yeah.
It's just great. People can play it on sovereignty, which is also good. It's a great way to learn the rules and so forth and whatnot. So that would probably be the main difference. I would have changed my timing. I wouldn't have changed the titles that we did. I would have a major shift that happened about 6 years ago, probably now,
Hmm.
maybe even more recent than that. Maybe it's 5 years ago. The number one thing that people said was that got them engaged with our brand was interacting with me. And I
Oh.
never wanted that to be the case. I'm publishing my sixth game, Chris, and my name is not on the box.
Wait. So you you're saying that you didn't want to interact with people?
No, I just wanted to make games. I was like,
Are are, are you
it,
an introvert more?
yeah, like,
Really?
yeah. It doesn't seem that way, but yeah, no, I was like all like those first videos that I'm in, I'm a wreck in it. Like, since like short form video content has become such a thing, become way more comfortable with it, but it was wrecking.
Wow. Yeah. So like when you get home from cons, I mean, I don't know. I did 13 or 14 last year. I'm sure you did at least as many, if not more. But like, are you just wiped then? Are you
Yeah.
done? Like you go put your snuggie on and disappear and just lay
Yeah.
down and get some rest? Is that what
Yeah,
happens?
that's usually what happens. I'm getting way too old for a lot of stuff. So it depends on how set to kill I put the individual convention. Like
Uh-huh.
if I'm rocking out I can comfortably do 10 and a little bit of change hour days for a convention. But if I set the days to 14 or 16 hours, which occasionally does happen, then I am destroyed that next week. Like, absolutely. I don't travel well. Like, yeah, it's like
Oh man.
yeah, no, it's hard. I gotta get my snuggie on. Yeah, like, make little puppet friends out of ShamWows and just be.
So before we got going, you said you enjoyed gamers the most when you play a game. Tell me about that then, because that sounds both uh, exhausting. It doesn't seem like an appropriate enough word given what you're telling me. Like what is going on there in your mind that you can enjoy a game with gamers, but then at the same time you're like, I can't wait to get home.
Yeah, all right, let's talk about that a little bit. So,
Yeah.
the biggest surprises in the X amount of time, because I am built the way that I am, is how uplifting the relationships with industry people and our fans have been over the last 5 years, 6 years, actually. Like, I had a lot of personal tragedy in 2018 that then was echoed and was awful in 2020. And what ended up really sustaining me and getting me through it were all the people in and around Fight in a Box that wanted me to succeed. Like I kickstarted Mouse Cheese Cat Cucumber when I was homeless. I was homeless for 8 months.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
I did not realize that I wanted to participate in the TikTok community, for example. And so your question was like, what is the biggest surprise? My
Yeah.
biggest surprise is, I do a weekly series where I interview people in and around gaming, trying to
Mm,
make gaming better. And every week it's a surprise how much I get from it.
mm,
And so what does that like interview cycle versus game demo have in common? Um, what I find exhausting about like non-gamers and incidental contact is I think I have a real problem understanding what I'm supposed to do in a conversation or how I'm supposed to act. Like you've seen me, Chris. I'm like highly wild, like, am I supposed to edit? Am I supposed to like interpret? Like whatever's gonna go on. But if you give me some rules, like a game demo, or an interview, I can suddenly have a meaningful conversation with another human because you
mm.
put me on rails.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. No, no, no. I get it. There are times when I have no idea what is going on in a conversation. Like I don't understand small talk at all.
I'm so terrible at small talk. Like, oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Like my former in-laws could spend literally, I timed them once, 2.5 hours talking about traffic and the weather in one conversation sitting. And I was like, oh, I need to get out of here. I cannot do it. I can't do it, Chris. I can't. It's like, please, let's just talk about something that matters. That, of course, makes me a little intense. Like, but we live in it like exciting times. I'm like, are we gonna have fun, or are we gonna talk about things that matter, or are we gonna do both? Like, those are the two things that yeah.
Is there any game that you've enjoyed and has brought up good conversations for you recently?
Games that I enjoy. I'm still a little bit stuck on Kingdom Death Monster. The audacity
Oh,
of that game is insane.
yeah.
It's an aspiration unto itself. Also, its production values are just absolutely nuts. I sort of liked their answer to the pinup girl controversy. They're like, you're right. It's not fair that we scantily clad all these women. Here, have all these scantily clad men. Now it's fair. So that like coming up with like things that almost seem like a punchline to it, like a whatever, and like and their fans went crazy for it. That's an example of everybody winning,
Mm,
right?
hmm.
Their fans who wanted more got it. The social inadequacy was addressed, and they could be celebrated for the shenanigans. I see warning lights and other things going on. What's going on?
If we need to continue the conversation because we're having a good conversation, we'll just use the same link. I have free Zoom because I used to pay for Zoom, so I'll edit
Oh,
that part out. Uh,
okay.
anyway,
Okay.
yeah.
So yeah.
Sorry
So
to throw you off with that.
no,
Yeah.
no, it's all good. There's blinking, and I'm like, oh my god, am I that boring? I'm like, oh, I'm gonna get gong showed out.
No, no. Okay, so we were talking about Kingdom of Death Monster and what was going on there, and how you appreciated the sort of double punchline there. Um,
Yeah, a double punchline is really, 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 really good. I don't like things that are, um, yeah, no, like fixing inadequacies. Uh, I very much liked the old school 80s fantasy barbarian art because, like the barbarians are wearing a fuzzy like man jeans string themselves, right?
oh yeah,
So
like Conan makes absolutely no sense for most of that movie. Like absolutely no sense.
but James Earl Jones does.
But you know, no, his clothes makes it right. He shows up and like Conan's wearing this, and James Earl Jones at least looks like he fits in within in his environment. But like, I don't care how many things you're lifting. I don't know. I'm not a power lifter, but like, you're not going to be that warm in that situation outside, right? Anyway,
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, there's one thing to say. I'm not going to yuck anybody's yum about cold weather or anything like that. Um, so
yuck anybody's gum about cold weather. Okay.
yeah, like no, like seriously, there's all these trends about people like getting themselves cold. I'm like, yeah, sure. I live in Minnesota. Like
Oh,
if it's over 10 degrees, I'm in shorts. And so people are like, "You're crazy." I'm like, "Yeah, I keep my windows open almost year round, and like until it drops below 35 degrees, and then the windows get closed." Like, uh,
all right.
I'm cryogenically freezing myself just in advance. So, but games that inspired me, like last year's Scouts Excellence was so good. Like the crew, like there was a real mentality in 2019 where a trick-taking game was not something gamers would embrace. And these games sort of really broke that mold.
Mm-hmm.
So when people reintroduce something that uh, people have loved and bring it back into the realm for game possibilities, I'm absolutely on board for. So those are sort of the answers. Boop was an inspiration. The whole story of Boop is an inspiration. Yeah, absolutely.
It's really cool.
So you can see the fluffy light end from Boop to Kingdom Death Monster. You can see how that same person loves the $5,000 board game.
um, when you think about those big games from Kingdom Death Monster to the little games and everything in between, as a new game designer, it can be challenging to like focus in and decide where you're going to go, right? So, what advice, if you could give just like one piece of, or two or three, I guess, because you're going to Protospiel soon, and I'm sure you'll get asked the question anyway. What advice would you give to a new game designer?
Fail faster.
Jake Cormier.
Yeah, no, like seriously.
Yeah.
Game design. I think a lot of first time or early designers, because nobody wants to be judged, right? Is not comfortable putting something less than perfect out on the table. And no game design survives interacting with gamers. Like you are just going to learn so much about yourself, about the skills that you need to publish a game, and where this game fits in your idea of fun by just getting it to the table. Yeah, that would be my recommendation. Playtest as early and as often as possible. Not like if you have one player turn, that's more than acceptable to play test, as long as it's quick. If you have one round, that's great. Typically that's how I break up my methodology. I'm like, oh, okay, what does a turn look like? Okay, what does a round look like? And then if a round seems to be fun, I have them play the game until the game breaks or stops being fun, and then I'm like, okay, boom. That's the limit, and I cut it off, put a bow on it, and that kinds of stuff, and that's sort of how I shape it into the shape that it is. So yeah, that would be my advice. Go try things out. Go start playtesting early. I know people have heard this advice before, but they really should really embrace it. It will help you out a lot.
Yeah. When you say go till a game breaks, like what does that mean for you? Because people like I heard a game night the other night and somebody goes, "Oh, this game is broken," which obviously it wasn't. They had just figured out a way to do well, and the other people weren't doing as well as they were, as fast as they were. And that can be a problem within gaming communities sometimes, right? Is some people pick up on certain mechanics better than
Right.
others. So I think you're using that term in a different way than that person was using that term.
A little bit. If it's very clear that there's a winner, if there's very clear that things are lopsided to the point where it's not fun for anybody else,
Hmm.
mostly till it breaks is when it stops seeming fun or stops being an opportunity for you to learn.
Hmm.
And you're like, okay, I think I've learned everything I need here. When I was a kid, I was exposed to chess really, really early. I ended up being like, of course, as super nerd, captain of my chess team very early in my high school career. And so the ability to see multiple moves ahead is something that you'll want to like embrace as a game designer. And so generally for me, I know it has to hit the table that it's way past due, that when I'm looking at it, I can no longer see past the thing that I've created.
Mm.
And so that means I've gone all that kinds of stuff. And that's a real indicator internally for me that I need to get a table and see what everything is. It goes before I just loop back again and redo the mental math of the thing that I've done again and again and again and again and again. If that
Yeah.
makes any sense.
Oh, absolutely. With game design, some people can think about like you mentioned mathing it out, and for some people they think of spreadsheets and like trying to get it right. What does that look like for you, and how do you maintain the fun in the midst of like collecting all that information?
Like spreadsheet design is a thing. I try to avoid it when I can. I want things to be organics and surprising, but occasionally that ends up happening. I think my co-designer Patrick Yang likes that more end of the pool. But with AIs being able to help you write these scripts about testing and average point spreads and other kinds of stuff, I think it's a really helpful tool if you're going to do something that is crunchy and VP based. But my games don't tend to be of that flavor. I probably could do one for processing, but processing is sort of a smarter party game, and so that throws that right out the window anyway. So, but
Mm-hmm.
I know, like with these kinds of tools, you'd be surprised what you can ask Chat GPT to do for you, and it will just be like a verbal based browser and give you the instructions that you need. So if you're interested in getting a spreadsheet to behave, you should say, you go to Chat GPT and say, hey, how do I get this column to do this activity? And it will spell it out for you in like easy to follow steps. It's a little crazy.
That that's cool. I mean, let's come back to Conquest Princess and how that all came together because 9 years is a long time. Yeah, let's show for those that can see that beautiful cover. I mean, how much did you mentioned Barbarella, but like how much did things like Star Trek or Babylon 5 and things like that, how much did that influence the game?
Let's see. Let's like obviously Conquest Princess itself and how you interact with the giant robot is very reminiscent of Johnny Sacco. The fashion
Uh-huh.
as power theme is very reminiscent of Barbarella. The magical girl transformation is very reminiscent of Sailor Moon.
Hmm.
The action point economy is very reminiscent of Pandemic, but feels very Power Rangers. Um, let's see. The space pets got a little bit of catch 'em all in there. But you're rescuing them instead. I won't, there's a lot of stuff going on with this game. But did you like the live action One Piece?
Yeah, yeah, I did. Yeah.
So we are coming, and you liked that. We said you liked everything everywhere all at once. We're coming
Yeah.
up to a era of people who grew up completely submerged in various things. And like Oda for One Piece, anything can be incorporated in your universe if you do it with love, care, and intention. So for example, there is a season of One Piece where the bad guys are Steven Tyler and Tyler Durden. Just think about that. Just think about that for a second, right? And
I'm only in like the 200. So is that like farther on, or like, does this actually exist, or are you?
No, absolutely. I'm not going to put spoilers, but there is a season.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. It's I think it's in the upper 800s, or maybe it might be in the upper 800s.
Okay.
It's a few story arcs. It's a few multiple year arcs ago. Yeah, I think it was like 4 years ago. And so whatever that does for your so it's like 900, 800, 900.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, that season. Yeah, Steven Tyler and Tyler Durden are the bad guys. And you're like, oh my God. You get to look forward to Tim Curry's Dr. Frankenfurter is an important character in the One Piece universe. You didn't realize that, but that is definitely there.
It makes sense. It makes sense.
Yeah, it's coming. And so I hope to be able to see the end of One Piece before I die. I'm not, knock on wood, I'm not thinking that that's going to be possible. But I mean, I started watching that in like 20 or not 2018, like 98.
Wow. Yeah.
Right? I started watching it in 98, and like other things like Barbarella, it got into me, and I'm like, the audacity of everything can fit in my world. It's like a real world. There's a place for everyone and everything in this world. And I'm like, okay. And so if you want to see how it all fits and works, Conquest Princess, that's where 9 years go into. Like, and you don't even have to take my word for it. The reviews for the game are cuckoo bananas. They are bonkers good. So from Board Game Co. to One Stop Co-op Shop to Hungry Gamer to Danny Standering to Grant Line, like the game is legit. Like, no one has to take my words for it. They can go and people are always surprised that this game is as good as it is. And see, I'm getting it past my imposter syndrome. And it's a huge box. It's 7 pounds of cardboard.
But the acrylic standees are standard, right?
No.
Oh, they're not. Okay.
No.
So that's an upgrade.
Yes.
Okay.
And so is the light kit. Did you get to see the light kit at PAX Unplugged?
I don't think I saw the light kit.
The light kit.
What does the light kit do?
When you magically girl transform, the light kit upgrade allows you to have lit up and alternate acrylic standees for it is crazy.
Okay.
If you wanted to feel that, so it has game purpose for just being more than super fabulous and blingy. There is a lot to process in upper level. Like if you're playing the advanced mission or the boss battle mission, there's a lot to keep in mind when you're planning your turn, because it's a hard strategy co-op game, and the puzzle is very apparent. I think like Alex from Board Game Co. played it 8 times and finally won on his 8th time. And Mike from One Stop Co-op, I think he played it 6 times and finally won on his 6th time or something like that. He's like, I've never won this game. This game is impossible. He's sending me messages like you can get there. You like when people have their aha moment in the game, but like the light up standees is there to remind you, okay, this person is transformed. And since there is
Mm-hmm.
a mechanic in the game where you get to use the fashion abilities of anybody you share space with, how you end your turn, how you begin your turn, and how you share fashion while maintaining things that are all over the place is part of the fun and the trick of the game.
Very cool. Well, I am looking forward to Night of the Necropede and how
February
people react to.
6th.
Yeah.
Woohoo! Yeah, it's a mini campaign. We're excited about it. It will not impact if folks were uh backers of the original campaign, it will not
Mm-hmm.
impact the delivery date. It's still gonna be late summer for this 2024, hopefully.
Mm-hmm.
Our track record says we're really usually pretty good at delivering on times, considering I've never been late. I've been early 3 times. We're very, very excited about it. Yeah. The game is socially important. There are a lot of people who talk about that end of the game. We didn't talk about that either, but
Well, what do
uh,
you want to say about that?
well, representation matters, and
Mm-hmm.
we are in a weird place in the universe where the number of gamers are women gamers. Okay. And the largest segment of gamers currently are gateway gamers because they started their journey probably a little bit later with the dark times of pandemic, really doubled the size of gamers. And the
Mm-hmm.
largest group that came and joined the table were women gamers. But we are seeing in game media that's not represented. And we're in game
Mm-hmm.
publishing and titles that's not, yeah. And so Conquest Princess is like a female empowered story. Women in gaming right now have sort of been relegated to cozy games, and if they're not cozy, then they've got problems. Like you heard about what happened with votes for women in Facebook, right, Chris?
Yeah, yeah. Tori's game is great, and Facebook is ridiculous. Yep.
Right. And so
Yep.
we didn't run into something that bad, but definitely in the exact same ballpark during the Princess campaign, plus other things like that. Like
Mm-hmm.
we're in such a polarizing weird time and people finding a title that says, "Hey, I've always wanted to be Wonder Woman," and or I've always wanted to be like any of the like guards from Wakanda, like female empowered stories that are where women warriors are doing things are sort of in the minority. And so finding like a chance for those characters to have their voice too is important. Obviously, we also feature a trans and non-binary character as well, and so that representation for that group is very, very, very important.
Very. Yeah. Um, I'm gonna plug my own thing since you've been plugging a lot of things too. And this coming weekend, well, I don't know what. I don't know. Dates aren't real anymore. But February 2nd through 4th, we're doing a game designer weekend at University of Cincinnati with students and local game designers. And one of my partners there is Superheroine Inc., a local group. And so she and so encouraging she to grow and be more um, vocal and present in Ohio is something that we want to see here too. So anyway, yeah, no, I
That's
agree.
great. No,
Yeah,
yeah. On my show, we call this the wrap up, and everybody, it's time to plug your stuff. Like, let's hear it.
yeah, yeah. I'm bad at plugging stuff generally. So anyway, it's been a pleasure. Anything though that you want to talk about before we sign off?
Yeah, no. Other than Protospiel Minnesota is coming up, the Conquest Princess campaign is coming up, and
Yep.
then Con of the North is coming up. Everybody who was originally went through all the awkward that happened during the original campaign, I thank them so much. The original backers, and I hope people get excited about this mini expansion. I think it's great.
Yeah, because the game's awesome. Well, thank you, Seppy.
Yeah, thanks,
Appreciate it.
Chris.